what is there, 2,100 work hours in a typical work year or something to that effect, right? So if you're going to hire an exec and you're giving them a 4-year vest, that's like 8,000 some hours that they're going to be here. So if you're going to spend 6 or 8 or 10 or 12 or whatever it takes to get their job right, do it, because the cost of getting it wrong is enormous, and the opportunity of getting it right is enormous. And so the investment in time for hiring someone like that is tremendous. Now, I should say, not every job is like that. Most people aren't running around hiring C-level executives at a
Right.
SaaS business. And so, you have to be smart about what's the right investment, what's the right trade-off. In fact, I was talking to a customer, I was talking to a customer just last month, and he said, because we were honed in on, they had, in their case, a certain percentage of their hires that I was categorizing as failures. That, in other words, you hired a person and within 6 months, the person was no longer at the business. And I thought, kind of every time that happens, it's a failure. And he said to me, it's interesting. He said, for a lot of our roles, that's very true. But some roles, he's like, I really want to experiment. I really want to try a bunch of different things out. I don't know what's going to work yet. I think there's probably something better than what we've tried before. So I want to put a bunch of irons in the fire. And if most of them don't work out, but one of them is a home run, it's all worth it. So it's almost like a little bit of a portfolio approach where he thought, if I don't make a couple failed hires, I may not be taking enough risk. And so that may also, like, that may not be you, like, it's different by role, but like I say, unfortunately, there's no substitute for thinking, like, is quite nuanced. But yes, if you're hiring a job that you've done a lot before and is kind of routine. So I think of, like, most SaaS businesses, they hire a lot of salespeople, they hire a lot of programmers, they hire a lot of customer support people. If I think about a e-commerce business, they hire a lot of, pick and pack warehouse people. They hire a lot of customer support, customer service, reps. They've hired hundreds of these over and over and over again. Like, you can get it down to a real science, and you can do it. You can measure it statistically, and you can shrink the interview funnel to, like, just a bare minimum, so you can work really fast. Like, those are the kind of optimizations you can do when you make the same hire over and over and over again. But if you're hiring an executive at a firm, the optimization is just get the hire right, no matter what.
What's interesting, with a lot of companies that I work with these days, I'm realizing the repeatability in, like, the sales motion or the engineer or these things that you're talking about. I agree with that 100%. If they then have the ability to performance manage those people, right? Because if not, you can end up with, if you don't have the machine on the back end, you end up hiring a bunch of these people because you feel like, oh, we've done it 100 times, but you don't have that performance management machinery to ensure that only the best people stay.
Yeah, well, when you say performance manage as a verb, it's a euphemism for firing, right?
Yeah. Well, true. Yes.
Well, so I think there's a few things in there, because I think you're right. You got to be able to identify who's succeeding in the job, clarify what that even means for the people who are trying to do it, arm your managers with the opportunity, with the tools that they need to give their teams the opportunity to grow and to succeed. And then, to identify people that's not working out for, and move quickly to fix the problem one way or another. Absolutely. And I think, what I've found is that great hiring is actually an incredibly powerful management tool. Why do I say that? The underlying reason why so many managers fail to move on from mediocre performers. Nobody fails to move on from terrible performers, right? If someone's just a tragedy, like, everybody can get rid of them. And, the top performers always do well. But, like, that middle bucket where you're not quite sure and they're fine, but, like, I don't know. The reason managers don't move on from those people often is because they don't know what else. Like, or if I get rid of this person, I got no one. Alternatively, if you just imagine that manager had 100% certainty that they could instantaneously fill that seat with a top performer every single time. Just imagine. Let's imagine that sitting behind you right now is a top performer. And at any moment I can say, David, get up, walk away. That top performer is going to sit down in your seat instead, right? Not realistic, but just as a thought exercise, like, well, you'd be on your best behavior. You'd perform better. And as a manager, it would be so easy for me to know, like, if you're not the top performer, I can swap you out for one real else.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
If you picture, I don't always like to use sports analogies in business because they don't always land, but just, like, go with me for a second. If you picture an NBA basketball team has, like, a dozen or 15 people or whatever it is on the bench, right? That's it. And every year there's a college draft, and they're allowed to pick, like, 3 or 4 more people. right? So now they have 19 and they got to get it back down to 15. So they take the 15 best and there's no room for B players. That's it. It's just like they rank them and they just keep who they can and everyone goes. And every year there's new amazing talent that can come in that's younger and faster and, all the rest. And, those people, they do a really good job of making sure that they only keep the best talent. And so, that idea of having great hiring behind you as a manager, it really supports the idea that you then also really effectively focused on performance.
That is probably the biggest fear of managers is I will let this person go. And then who's going to do their job?
Yeah. And you're going, well, gosh, my recruiting team is it's like inconsistent and like doesn't always work. It takes forever, like blah, blah, blah. Well, if you don't have that problem, if you're like, no, I guarantee you that every time I open a role, I'm going to hire a great person.
Right.
Okay. So you have a great person already? Great. You don't? Why not? Make one.
Wow.